The Little Bird is a high skill, high reward vehicle in Battlefield 6. If you put it in the right hands, you can effectively make an entire lobby hate you. However, if you make one tiny mistake, the game will punish you, and it will punish you severely. And this can often lead to players feeling frustrated and lost when it comes to flying on Battlefield 6. In today's video, I'm going to be covering ideal loadouts, settings and key bindings for both PC and controller players for the Little Bird. Okay, so firstly let's go over game settings. Now, for most of this, it's up to you, it's personal preference. However, if you are flying with helicopter control assists on, you really should take that off right now. I know it might take some getting used to, but trust me, if you're flying with it on, you are crippling your ability to get anything out of a Battlefield match. One thing to note is, if you set your aircraft control sensitivity or helicopter control sensitivity below 100, you run the risk of not being able to turn at full speed, and that's going to cripple your ability to dogfight. So next, let's talk about key bindings. Now, if you're a controller player, skip to the timestamp shown on screen for the controller settings. And if you're on PC, you'll basically want to copy all of these controls, especially the ones that you're going to be using to control your helicopter. Now, with choppers, I use something called rifle aim. Now, this is where you bind your right and your left movements to your mouse x-axis movements. And this allows you to aim your helicopter as if you were holding a gun, like infantry. And this means you're going to be much more accurate and precise when strafing infantry in the Little Bird. Moving on, for controller players, head over to your helicopter control settings, and most of this is just going to be personal preference, but feel free to copy it if you want. Something else you should experiment with is gyro aiming, because you can use this to be much more precise when killing infantry, and honestly you can level the playing field with PC players in dogfights just by using gyro aiming. So next we have the helicopter button mapping. Now, if you haven't got your own set of controls to follow, I would highly advise you just copy these. But if you've flown on previous Battlefield games, then you are probably more than fine to just stick with the previous set of controls you have, and it might not even be worth overriding a bunch of muscle memory to relearn it on new controls. Now, I would just like to put a disclaimer out there, I am not a main controller player. I mainly play on mouse and keyboard, so please take everything I say with a grain of salt. There might be a better way of doing things. It seems like the pro controller players on vehicle gameplay in the Battlefield community just don't want to expose their settings. So I've decided to make this part of the guide to hopefully fill in the gap a little bit. But as I said, take this with a grain of salt. I did fly with these controls and I've gotten to the point where I feel comfortable using them. But like I said, controller is not my main input. I have always been a mouse and keyboard player. Okay, so let's talk about loadouts. So for the primary weapon, any of these options are good. All of them are solid options. Everybody tends to flock towards the grenade launcher, but there are two real big problems for why you shouldn't pick this. Number one, I think it's going to get nerfed eventually. I don't know when, but it's coming soon. And the reason why is because of all the hype around it. Everybody's talking about it. A grenade launcher this, grenade launcher that, this is the best loadout. All that attention, and now DICE is going to nerf it. Me personally, I don't think it should be nerfed. At the very least, maybe just tone down the damage it does to tanks, because I don't think it should be soloing tanks that quickly. And the other big reason is, when you pick the grenade launcher, you are crippling yourself against any other air vehicle. Because any other competent pilot, they will eat you alive if they're using the machine guns. Eat you absolutely alive. And my worry is, if you only know how to use the grenade launcher on the Little Bird, when DICE nerf it, if they nerf it, everybody's going to go flooding back to the minigun and the heavy MG, and you're going to have had no experience with it. So get that experience at least first with the minigun and the heavy MG before you then move on to the grenade launcher. I know the grenade launcher is an easy option, you get loads of kills with it, high KPM potential, but at least learn the miniguns before you then move on to the grenade launcher, because those skills will transition over into Battlefield 7, into Battlefield 8, and they'll also go backwards to Battlefield 4 and Battlefield 2042. Next we have the heavy MG. Now this is, in my opinion, the best weapon to use. And the reason why is because it has a high damage output against enemy air vehicles, and they're going to be your biggest threat. However, it requires the most skill to use, and if you're a beginner, I don't think I would recommend starting with this one for now. Then we have the normal miniguns. These are the default miniguns that the Little Bird comes with. These, if you're just starting out, are absolutely perfect. They are very useful for aiming against infantry. It's very simple. You just point your crosshair over the infantry, and if you're close enough, you will most likely rip them apart. And they're also really good against other air vehicles, and honestly, they are just a solid choice for beginners. They are so good that even pro pilots still use this over the heavy MGs because it's just easier and more convenient to aim with against infantry, and the damage output against air vehicles is still more than enough to successfully gain air superiority. They also take way longer to overheat compared to the heavy MGs. So honestly, the verdict here is to try both and see which one you prefer, but generally speaking, you will most likely want to start out with these ones first. Okay, so moving on, don't bother with aim-guided rockets. You get less rockets than you would for light rockets, and they don't shoot nearly as fast as the light rockets do, and honestly, that means they are essentially useless because you can't effectively kill infantry with them, and you can't shoot at enemy air vehicles properly with them, so I wouldn't recommend using them. Then for your equipment slot, I would go for motion sensor. Honestly, both options here are kind of mid. I just would go for motion sensor. Now for the vehicle upgrade, a lot of people choose the emergency stabilizer. I don't like it. And the reason why is because if you enter that state where you need the emergency stabilizer to save you, you are probably dead anyway, 90% of the time. Because if you're going up against another enemy air vehicle and they put you into that emergency, spin out mobility hit state, you are already dead because your aim's been thrown off, so the emergency stabilizer is useless anyway. If it had instead decided to remove the effect of mobility hits, then it would absolutely be worth it. But just reducing the effect of it isn't good enough to save you. Then you have the tactical data system. I don't use this. I don't like it. It seems just very niche to me, and I don't know why people would want to use it. If it had allowed teammates to spawn onto you as if you were the transport helicopter, I think it would be more valuable. Now then we have the engine upgrade. I don't like this because one, the speed buff it gives you isn't even that good of a speed buff to get you out of a sticky situation in the first place, and two, it destroys your left and right movements, and that is a vital thing to you when you're in a Little Bird. You can see on screen, pay attention to the compass. You can see on the left, which is the one without engine upgrade, it is moving so much quicker compared to the right. And that brings me to my choice, targeting interference. The reason why is because there is a bug right now where the Igler can go through flares like 80% of the time. When I started using targeting interference, I found that it happened less frequently. It still happens, don't get me wrong, but it gives me more time to react, and therefore less time for DICE to do their bullshit and have it pass through my flares. So now that you have your ideal loadout, let's talk about how to practice flying this thing. So what you want to do is go into Portal, put the code you see on screen, and this should give you a good aim trainer / playground to try out the Little Bird. Now turn on the buildings so that you have some buildings to fly around with, and what you want to do is just get comfortable with the controls that I've given you. Make sure you can fly comfortably and smoothly because you don't want any accidents, and make sure you are comfortable with aiming against the bots because the bots are terrible, right? They barely move, but if you can't aim against a stationary target, you're gonna struggle to aim against a moving target. So let's go over some aiming techniques then. Now most beginners, when they're aiming for a target, they tend to keep their helicopter pretty much stationary. This is bad because one, you end up looking like a paid actor in a film, and two, you're an easy target. So instead what you want to do is get used to orbiting your enemy. This is where you pick an altitude and you start to literally circle around your targets, and obviously you're going to shoot at them until they're dead. Now the goal here is you do not want to be predictable, because all it takes is one engineer who knows what they're doing and you are out of the sky. So make sure you freestyle a bit, change direction, change altitude, utilize the use of below radar as well. You can do low orbits, obviously they are more risky, but it means you won't get any lock-ons. Now remember, the miniguns on this game, there are two of them on the Little Bird, and the game cockpit sight is designed for those two guns in mind. The minigun bullets, they have a convergence point, so when you get too close to an enemy, you'll find your bullets end up going all around them, and you need to counteract this by just aiming with one gun instead of both. And generally speaking, don't just rely on the crosshair. look at where your bullets are landing and improve from there. So now that we're done with the guns, let's talk about aiming the rockets. Now it's important to know that when you shoot the rockets in this game, they shoot in 2-round bursts. So when you click the mouse button once, 2 rockets will come out. This means you have to be very ammo conservative, and as a general rule of thumb, try not to fire off your entire salvo at once for just one guy, because it is not worth it. Generally speaking, in games, I like to keep my rockets conserved for just vehicles, and especially air vehicles, as if you're very accurate with those, you can wipe out a dogfight before it even has a chance to start. Okay, so let's go over how to survive a battlefield match then. Your first priority when you load in and you start a match is to locate the enemy aircraft, specifically the enemy choppers. They are your biggest threat. Because of how fast the time to kill is in this game, you cannot really react if an enemy catches you off guard. You can't even initiate a dogfight anymore. So the only way to survive is to be on top of the enemy air force before they get a chance to strike you first. The next thing I'd like to say is, below radar is your friend. You need to utilize that as much as possible. Not just for avoiding lock-on missiles, but for also sneaking up onto enemy helicopters. Because if they see you coming, then you are effectively making the dogfight a 50-50, depending on a couple of other variables, of course. But that's my problem with this game. Every dogfight is a 50-50 if you see each other and you meet each other head on. It's whoever gets the first hit and whoever puts the other person into a mobility hit first. Which is a shame, so unfortunately we have to play around that by sneaking up onto the enemies instead. Now, you are below radar when you are under 10 meters on the altimeter. You can see this when you go into first person, but I tend not to use it. I tend to just eyeball it and fly as low as possible. As a heads up, do not use the minimap. The minimap's little below radar indicator is inaccurate and it stays for way longer than it should, even when you've already exited below radar. And then just as another heads up, some buildings on certain maps, like Manhattan Bridge for example, like the skyscrapers, even if you're hovering above them, you aren't below radar still. You are only below radar if you are actually near the terrain. Now this brings me on to the next point. Check your minimap. You have to be aware of your surroundings, and if there are any enemy choppers nearby, you must know this, because otherwise they will catch you off guard. So check your minimap, because all it takes is for them to dip above radar for even a little second, and they'll appear on your minimap. Now, once you've killed the enemy chopper, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds of free time before they respawn. If you are serious about being like a super pro pilot, you should probably get into the habit of trying to mentally time this. I hate saying that because I just want to fly around freely, you know? I want to fly around, take the fights when I can. I don't want to have to do all that timing bullshit, but if you are serious about trying to get high kill games, the only way you can guarantee it is by knowing when your enemy respawns. I hate saying it, it's not fucking worth it at all. Yeah, I hate that you have to do that. And if you do that, like, I don't blame you. I really don't. It's the only way to ensure you survive in this game now, because you can't take the chance of having an actual fair dogfight in this game. It is just a coin flip. I cannot stress that enough. It doesn't matter how good you are. If you let an equal dogfight take place, it is just a coin flip. So when I'm playing on a battlefield map, I like to draw a line down the middle. Now say my HQ is on the left side, that now means everything on the right side of that line is essentially a high risk area. And generally speaking, when I'm in a helicopter, I very rarely cross into that high risk area. The longer you stay there, especially above radar, the more likely you are to die. Now, if you are going to cross into the high risk area, you need to know where you're going, who you're trying to kill, and then how to get out. If you don't, then it is not worth the risk, and if you sit there and you linger in the high risk area with no idea as to what you're doing, you will die. Now, when you're doing attack runs, on any battlefield map, it is always better to do it from the flanks. If you go in head on from where they expect you, you will most likely draw too much unwanted attention. It is important that you keep your momentum when you're a little bird. Speed is your best friend. If you keep your speed in a little bird, you will be untouchable. Also, another thing, do not rely on your CRAM anymore to block AA missiles and just other stuff. It's really inconsistent right now, and I just wouldn't rely on it. You should also be worried about flare management. Flare management is a very big thing in any air vehicle, and to put it simply, if you don't have flares, you shouldn't be taking on engagements with anybody. Even if you are hugging below radar, all it takes is one recon to paint you when you're out of position and you are exposed, and that is it. You are dead regardless of how low you are flying. Now, if you get locked on by an AA missile, flare as late as possible. And when I say AA missile, I mean Stinger and normal AA missiles shot by AA tanks. If it's an Igla, however, it's a bit, I still don't know what to think about this, but I think personally, I choose to flare as early as possible. Because right now, the Igla is bugged, and it doesn't matter. There are cases where it doesn't even matter how early you flare. It will go through anyway. So, the verdict is, judge the situation, think, am I too close to the Igla? And if you are, flare before they even shoot. Before they even shoot. I hate saying that, because it's such a bad technique. It is bad technique in a Battlefield game to flare before they've even shot their missile. But you can't take that chance anymore with the Igla. You cannot take that chance anymore. So it is essentially, do I pick between flaring early and guaranteeing they don't get the missile off, or flaring when they shoot and flipping a coin and maybe it will hit me through bullshit and maybe it won't. And in most cases, I choose to just not take the chance. And now, to wrap this video up with some final notes. I say this with every guide video I've done so far regarding to air vehicles, but you need to be patient. Learning how to fly in this game is miserable, absolutely miserable. I am so glad I've got my flying experience on older Battlefield games, because God, I would hate to learn how to fly on this one. So take your time with it. It will get frustrating. Don't let it get to your head. And if you come across a pro pilot or somebody even who roughly knows what they're doing, just leave the lobby, man. It's not worth having a 50-50 every time you see each other. It really isn't. Leave the lobby and go find somewhere quieter and less competitive. I would just like to say now, I really do wish you good luck. If you keep at it, you will be able to have fun in this game. It is possible. It is definitely possible. But the conditions need to be right. And just as a disclaimer, when you see those YouTubers online that get like 100 kill games, 150 kills, you need to know that those games are cherry picked. They don't get them that often. They do not. They have to play hours and hours at off-peak hour lobbies as well, where there aren't as many competitive pilots online. And it will still take them ages and so much effort to get those games. And you also have to keep in mind that they have been playing since Battlefield 3. They've been playing non-stop every day for 18 hours straight, playing Chopper. They are masters at it. You can't get to that level overnight. It takes time. So don't get knocked down if you go into a Battlefield match now and you get like a 40 kill game. A 40 kill game is impressive in the Little Bird. Very impressive for most people's standards. Now that's going to be it for this video. If you've enjoyed it, please consider checking out my channel, as there are more guide videos on there for other vehicles in Battlefield 6. And if there's a vehicle you want a guide on, let me know and I'll look into it and I'll see if I can make it happen. And if they ever do change the chopper dogfighting in this game and make it actually somewhat tolerable and bearable, I will come back to this guide and I will make a follow-up explaining all the details about that I've inherited from previous Battlefield games. But otherwise, thank you for watching, consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you all in the next one.